what I would like to speak about this morning is something that's greatly misunderstood and is really not that difficult to find the truth of, and that's thinking and thought. Almost everyone you meet and all kinds of educations and philosophies and otherwise will speak about thinking and about I think and you think and I should think differently. But what we are forgetting here is that we never really examine, am I doing the thinking? Is there an individual separate that has autonomous and that does thinking? Now, let's say this is the case, and this is what I believe, that I do the thinking and I make the choice about what I think or what I don't think. But surely if this was the case, then I could also stop thinking. If I have the power to think, I have the power not to think. This is ours. This is a fact. It doesn't require any further proof. But of course that's impossible. Like, for instance, one of the difficulties I came across in meditation in earlier times, which I found very difficult, was that I could sit in a quiet place and in a dark room and have all the conditions right, but the theatre and the mind would still be in action. I didn't want it to be in action. I wanted peace. I wanted stillness. But sometimes the theatre was so active that I would have to get up and walk away. Now, is that a weakness in me in particular? Or would you too find that difficulty? If you try sitting in a room and stop the thoughts and see how far you get. And even this very examination, this very kind of small inquiry will ask a question about this concept we have about thinking, because it raises a doubt. You see, thought is one of the fastest events known to man. Now, if you sit in meditation, try to find the gaps between the thoughts. If you think the thoughts, well, then this should be easy enough to find the gaps between the thoughts, if there is such a gap. If you think the thoughts, then you should be able to find it. And then this would also allow you to see quite clearly and objectively where the thought begins and where it ends. But just try it. And you'll soon find that this is absolutely impossible. Now, so who is doing the thinking, or what is doing the thinking, to be more truthful? Thoughts arise themselves. They think themselves out of consciousness. It's an activity of it's an action of consciousness. And when you study it, you will find that when you bring attention to something, to an object, let's say I'm bringing my attention to the camera, I bring awareness, interest, curiosity to the camera, then thoughts will arise themselves with regards to that object of the camera. And one thought will arise generally in association with the last. Let's say I have a sad thought, comes up out of nowhere, then the next thought, and the next thought will also be of a sad nature. This is how one thought brings the other in its own likeness. Let's say, for instance, I'm changing the wheel in my car because it's punctured. And I hurt my hand. I hit my hand and I knock it and I hurt it and I swear and, maybe I curse myself or something like that. Well, immediately some other thought like that will arise. I might even start blaming the mechanic in the garage who didn't see that the tire was flat or something like that. And then this thought will go on and another one. And instantly this theatre will of anger will go, and blaming will go on in the mind, but I'm still changing the wheel. So what has that to do with changing the wheel? In what way is the theatre in the mind connected to the actual? There's no connection whatsoever. This theatre is self-perpetuating and has no relation whatsoever with the actual action that's being performed. Like even a brief inquiry into Carl Jung will tell you that there are aspects of the psyche and of consciousness that come of their own and speak of their own. Even they speak in dreams and in various things. So this is a wonderful thing to grasp, but not easy, because it creates a slight gap between the awareness, which I am, which I always have, and the theatre in the mind, the thinking process. And then I'm not blaming myself and wedded to a process that's not mine, and think that these thoughts are coming from outside, or they belong to some other dimension, you know, and that they're affecting me. These thoughts have a life of their own, and they are not my thoughts or my responsibility. I have input into it, of course, but that's about it. Now we can also look at this whole business of thought and thinking and the thinker in also another way, because if I say that I think the thoughts, then that means that there's a thinker, an individual with free will and the ability to do as it pleases, to choose as it pleases. But where is this individual? Because the individual that we speak of, the me, is a thought, you see? Because no matter how hard you look, you will never find a thinker of the thoughts. You will never find a taster of the taste, a hearer of the sounds. There is thinking, hearing, tasting, seeing, but you will never find, no matter how hard you look and go to the very final analysis, find an entity that's independent, that's doing these things. So this is also another aspect that must be kept in mind when we walk blasé into the idea that I think the thoughts. Now, a little earlier I mentioned how one can bring awareness to an object or to an idea in an objective way, and that the thoughts will follow in like manner when the attention and the curiosity is brought to bear on an idea or an object. Well, this is not too difficult at all, because, and this is the heart of the whole business really, when we get down to it. You see, let's take one of the best ways to come at this is to speak about the little infant child, like mysticism and spirituality and cultures through all nations and all times. Have the child as a kind of the innocence of the child, and like in the old Christian story, to become as a child again. And the reason for this is that the child has an innocence which is just pure awareness. There's no ego. In the infant child up to about 2.5 or 2, there is no ego. There's no sense of a me. There's no sense of my body or my. There is no me, my, or mine. Which means that there's no thought, thinking as such. There's just beingness. Pure beingness is pure intelligence, pure awareness, pure aliveness. It's in what we call intuitive intelligence, unbounded. Now, this is there. The tree is intelligent. The grass is intelligent. The rat, the mouse, the dove, everything has this intelligence within it. It knows it exists. It doesn't need to think I exist to know I exist, and neither do you. So this awareness is the totality of intelligence. We sometimes call it the heart. When we speak from the heart, we're not speaking about the physical pumping muscle. That's just a mechanical device. We're speaking about the totality of being, which is the totality of awareness, of intelligence. The thinking process is an aspect of intelligence, just an aspect. And what we call the unconscious is the totality of intelligence. Because consciousness is never private property. It's not mine. Consciousness is collective. It's like, for instance, we take ourselves, for instance, like to be the pegs on the clothesline, that I'm separate and Perry is separate and you, the listeners, are separate. But really we're the clothesline. We're the awareness, the consciousness, the intelligence. That's the background to all that is, unborn, undying. And this is what comes to bear when we bring curiosity or a sharpened attention to a subject, like an idea, or to an object. And this is what directs the thought stream, which is a complete self-activating, never-ending process. It can go on even when the body is completely, perfectly asleep. And we call it dreams. The unconscious often uses this time to speak to us, to the conscious level. And so this is the total intelligence. There is a background of intelligence out of which thought comes, and without which thought could not be. And this is the real heart of the matter. Now, I know in a short video like this, if you're listening, this is not easy to understand. And the thing about it is, intellectually, you will not understand it. Your intellect will take you so far. It'll take you to the bank of the river. But the crossing is done otherwise. It plays its part. But these things are to be understood intuitively, by the totality of intelligence, by our intuitive intelligence, which we have in abundance. But it generally, in the wonderful times we live in, has tended to take a back seat to rationality and the thinking process.